So even though we face the difficulties of today and tomorrow, I still have a dream. It is a dream deeply rooted in the American dream. I have a dream that one day this nation will rise up and live out the true meaning of its creed. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal. I have a dream that one day on the red hills of Georgia, sons of former slaves and the sons of former slave owners will be able to sit down together at the table of brotherhood. I have a dream that one day, even the state of Mississippi, a state sweltering with the heat of injustice, sweltering with the heat of oppression, be transformed into an oasis of freedom and justice. I have a dream that my 4 little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. I have a dream today I have a dream that one day down in Alabama, with its vicious racists, with its governor having his lips dripping with the words of interposition and nullification, one day right there in Alabama, little black boys and black girls will be able to join hands with little white boys and white girls as sisters and brothers. I have a dream today I have a dream that one day every valley shall be exalted, and every hill and mountain shall be made low. The rough places will be made plain, and the crooked places will be made straight. And the glory of the Lord shall be revealed, and all flesh shall see it together. This is our hope. This is a faith that I go back to the South with. With this faith, we will be able to hew out of the mountain of despair a stone of hope. With this faith, we will be able to transform the jangling discords of our nation into a beautiful symphony of brotherhood. With this faith, we will be able to work together, to pray together, to struggle together, to go to jail together, to stand up for freedom together, knowing that we will be free one day. This will be the day when all of God's children be able to sing with new meaning, "My country, tears of thee. Sweet land of liberty, of thee I sing. Land where my fathers died, land of the pilgrim's pride. From every mountainside, let freedom ring. And if America is to be a great nation, this must become true. So let freedom ring. From the prodigious hilltops of New Hampshire, let freedom ring. From the mighty mountains of New York, let freedom ring. From the heightening Alleghenies of Pennsylvania, let freedom ring. From the snow-capped Rockies of Colorado, let freedom ring. From the curvaceous slopes of California. But not only that, let freedom ring from Stone Mountain of Georgia. Let freedom ring from Lookout Mountain of Tennessee. Let freedom ring from every hill and molehill of Mississippi, from every mountainside. Let freedom ring, and when this happens, when we allow freedom to ring, when we let it ring from every village and every hamlet, from every state and every city, we will be able to speed up that day when all of God's children, black men and white men, Jews and Gentiles, Protestants and Catholics, will be able to join hands and singing the words of the old Negro spiritual. Free at last, free at last. Thank God Almighty, we are free at last.
First, I'd like to give thanks to God for giving me the mental, physical, and spiritual strength to stand before you and give a word which He had manifested within me. I bear witness that Jesus Christ is the Savior of my life. I'd like to say thank you to Pastor Aaron Jackson for having me and trusting me with this opportunity. It's been years we've been talking. It's an honor to be here and allow me to stand before your congregation. I'd like to say thank you to this choir for what you all did this morning with the uplifting message and words. And I turned to Pastor Theron and I said, the director said, I want everybody to stand up and open your mouth. And I said, I can't carry a note in a bucket, sir. And he said, Brother Mackie, stay in your lane. It's guaranteed there's no traffic there. That's not my lane, so congratulations to you all. Thank you to my good friends who, in this area, who's really supported me. And I see Cheryl Wheeler here, who's worked at Southern and brought my book and gave it to many kids in the community here in Shreveport. I'm grateful for you. To David Aubrey, who always been a whisper in my ear. When I'm going wrong, he let me know. When I'm going right, he applaud me. Iron sharpen iron, and all of us need people in our lives that are going to show us the right way. I was thinking about my message today, and I was thinking about Dr. King. It's Dr. King's birthday. And we have to be careful about celebrating Dr. King's birthday in a time like this, in a world in which we live in. When people are not turning things back, they're putting it in a truck and going 100 miles per hour in reverse. We have to be careful that we don't celebrate Dr. King's birthday on Sunday or Monday tomorrow and then get up on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and desecrate his legacy. We're going to have people marching all over this country tomorrow celebrating King's birthday, that people voted and put in office, that people call leaders, and they're going to celebrate this man's life, but then get up and vote against voting rights. These people are going to celebrate King and talk about how a great man he was and how he's a patriot, and then get up and be against workers' rights. The same people are going to get up and march down the street and go to the statue and then celebrate the three evils against democracy that King talked about, which is militarism, poverty, and racism. The same people are going to get up and vote against a living wage. The same people are going to get up and vote against educational access and attainment for people like us in communities like these that King died for, such that one day we can go to schools that he was not allowed to go to. We have to make sure that we don't celebrate King's birthday and desecrate his legacy at the same time. So tomorrow when you're celebrating, tomorrow when you lock in arms, just look over to the person next to you and call a thing a thing. They can march with us, but we got to know who they are. Because just because they're marching with us and just because they're celebrating King's legacy, that doesn't mean they believe in what King believes in. And that's why it's important for us to celebrate King's legacy. It's important for us to celebrate King's life. It's important for us to celebrate us doing for our communities, because that's what King will want us to do. I think about Romans 5:5 all the time when Paul was addressing the Romans and he was explaining to them that hope isn't futile. This is not some pessimism. It's some optimism. Paul wanted the Romans to know that hope is real. And Romans 5:5 say, and hope does not disappoint, because the love of God has been poured within the hearts through the Holy Spirit, which was given to us. And there's no reason for us in a time like this to lose hope when we believe that Jesus Christ is our Savior. We got hope forever, and hope is an enduring, and we cannot lose hope. And what I want to talk about today is hope in the 21st century. I spent a lot of time trying to drag people, Pastor, into the 21st century because they keep wanting to talk about the 20th century. And the things that we did in the 20th century was great for the 20th century, but the things that we got to do in the 21st century is different from the things that we did in the 20th century. And just, to give you a little background, my name is Calvin Mackie, and I'm from New Orleans, Louisiana. I'm from Backertown, Gerttown, Zion City. I'm from the Lord 9 where we don't mind dying. I'm from that Wild Magnolia, I thought I told you. I'm from that CP3, you know me. The only thing I'm trying to say is that I started from the bottom, and now I'm here. I know from that introduction that Pastor gave, you thought you was going to get some other type of presentation. I just want you to know, if I was from Shreveport, I might say I'm from Motown. I might say I'm from Cooper Road. I might say I'm from Allendale. I may just be over there in Cedar Grove. I'm just trying to tell you that I'm just like you. And not only did I start from the bottom, I want you all to know that before this speech is over, you're going to realize that I can go from 0 to 100 real quick. And I want you to know, and I said we need hope and we got hope. I want you all to know I never needed an entertainer. I never needed a celebrity. I never needed somebody on TV. I never needed somebody famous to tell me that I had greatness in my DNA. Because from where I'm from, I had a church to tell me that I had greatness in my DNA. I had a family. I had a community. I had mentors. I had men, and I had coaches. And if we stand up and be what our community used to be, our children will have hope in the 21st century. This is our calling. This is the thing we need to do. And before I move on, there's a couple of caveats I got to give out. My beautiful wife, Tracy, isn't here because she had other obligations today, and she sends her regards. But my beautiful wife, Tracy, is a pharmacist, and she believes that I'm ADD and I've never been treated before. So it's very difficult for me to stand here at this mic and just do what I do because I got to move. I'm like that little kid in the class. I remember when my third grade teacher grabbed me by the collar, and she said, Kelvin, you're going to learn I'm going to kill you. And Pastor, I chose life. We need more of our children choosing life. And caveat number 2, don't confuse my passion with anger. Everywhere I go around the world, every time somebody like me and you stand up and talk about the world through the lens and the lived experience that we deal with, there's usually somebody in the back saying, that's an angry black man right there. And I said, I'm not angry. I'm just passionate. Matter of fact, I remember I was speaking at General Electric, one of the top 50 corporations in the world. And it was Jeff MLK, Al Sharpton, and me. Now, that's gangster. I'm sorry, I can say gangster. And I turned to Jeff ML and I said, Mr. ML, he said, yes, Dr. Mackie. I said, tickle me. He said, what? I said, man, pinch me. He said, what? I said, man, dreams do come true. Who ever thought a little black boy from Backertown, Gerttown, Zion City of New Orleans, we'd be sitting next to one of the most powerful CEOs in the world about to speak to 1,500 of his executives? And I need you all to know, hope in the 21st century tell us, to this day, dreams do come true. And we have to speak that into our children every day, that dreams do come true. As a matter of fact, Dr. Martin Luther King said, at the end of the day, it's not the murders of my enemies I shall remember, but the silence of my friends. And if I am angry, the real question is, if I'm angry, why are you not? Because when you look at the condition of many of our communities, look at the condition of many of our schools, look at the condition of education, look at the condition of many of our children. Look like somebody should be mad. Look like somebody should be angry. Look like somebody should be taken to the street. But I'm not angry. I'm just happy to be here with other passionate people. Matter of fact, James Baldwin said a passion is angry. He said a passion is unfriendly. He said a passion is contemptuous of all which is not itself. Matter of fact, he said a passion contains a challenge, and a passion contains an unspeakable hope. And everywhere I go around this country, speaking to people about education and speaking to people about our children, I challenge them to do more. I challenge them to be better. I challenge them to stand up before the barriers that stand before our children, but I refuse to leave them with an unspeakable hope. And this thing called hope is not playful. As a matter of fact, like I said, Romans 5:5 said hope doesn't disappoint. Matter of fact, Dr. Martin Luther King said we can have finite disappointments, but we got to have infinite hope. Matter of fact, I got a friend named Dr. Truth, Dana Andrews, Reverend Andrews, who spoke here before, and Dr. Truth always say, Brother Mackie, when you lose money, you've lost a little. So when you lose a friend, you've lost a lot. He said, when you lose hope, you've lost it. And as I go around this country, look in the eyes of my children, look like they've lost it. But Shreveport, we got to stand back and bring back hope to the eyes of all of our children. It is our responsibility to make sure that our children know, regardless of what they've been through, tomorrow they're going to wake up and it can be a better day. And we got to be there for them. This thing called hope is real. I know a man ran for president and used the word hope, and now people want to call hope a four-letter word. Hope ain't a four-letter word. Hope is the only thing that took us from where we were. Hope is the only thing that got us to where we are today. And hope is the only thing that's going to take us to where we need to go. This thing called hope is real. Matter of fact, hope is the thing that caused the old lady to sit down and caused a nation to stand up. Hope is the thing that made Tuskegee Airmen believe that they could fly airplanes when their own government told them they couldn't. Hope is the thing that made George Washington Carver do with a peanut 100 years ago that Harvard PhDs still cannot do today. Hope is the thing that turned Detroit red and the Malcolm X. Hope is the thing that turned crackheads into teachers and pimps into preachers. Hope is the thing that took a little black boy in Alabama and made him believe he can have a dream and change the world. And we got to remember when we celebrate King, King wasn't assassinated because he had a dream. King was assassinated because he got up every day and tried to make his dream come true. Hope is the thing that took a 47-year-old man and sent him to jail for 27 years in South Africa, and he came out a world leader. Hope is the thing that took Oprah from Tennessee to Hollywood. Hope is the thing that took Robert Smith to a billionaire on Wall Street. Hope is the thing that took Jay-Z from big pimping to a billionaire. Hope is the thing that took a black boy with a white mom and a goat herding daddy and made him believe that he can be president. And a whole lot of people said, no, you can't. But America stood up and said, yes, you can. And you see, Shreveport, I don't know about you. I don't know about you. But I want you to know that hope is that little voice in your ear that whispers maybe when the whole world is screaming no. And I don't know about you, where I'm from, back of town, Gertown. Maybe it's the same way in Allendale. Maybe it's the same way in Motown. When I was growing up, David Aubrey, when I was growing up, I thought my name was no. Giselle, when I thought my name was no. Everywhere I used to go, can I go over here? No. Can I do this? No. Can I play in the park? No. Can I go to the mall? No. Can I have a job? No. Can I go over here? No. Can I go to your college? No. You think I can be an engineer? No. You think I can be a doctor? Oh, no. Matter of fact, I remember all the pretty women in here. I remember when I was growing up, I used to look at the pretty women, Cheryl, and I used to ask them all the time, may I have your phone number? No, they used to tell me, no. See, back in the day, they didn't want me, but now since I'm hot, You see, I don't know telling our children no. They may be getting no at home. They may be getting no from their parents. They may be going to school, getting no. They may be going down the street, getting no. But when they come to Morning Star, when they come before you, we got to tell them yes. We got to make them believe. Matter of fact, I'd rather see a sermon and hear one any day. We got to show them what that hope looks like, what kindness looks like. We got to meet them where they are. We got to go in the street and grab them and meet them where they are. In the 21st century, our children are only going to have three options. Either our children are going to take something, break something, and or make something. And if we don't give our children the inspiration, the motivation, and the education to make something, like make a living, make a life, make a difference, that's only going to leave them with the two options that we see on the news every night. And I didn't want that for my two, and I know that you don't want that for your children, and this church don't want that for this community. And that's why we got to get out of the structure and go into the street and make sure that our children are getting what they need. And that's why in New Orleans, 13 years ago, we founded an organization called STEM NOLA. STEM NOLA is an organization to expose and inspire, engaging kids to science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. And I'll never forget, people like, man, what are you doing? You are crazy. You see, Pastor, they say when you're 3 feet ahead of the people, you're a leader. And they say when you're 10 feet ahead of the people, you're a target. 13 years ago, I was a target because I was 10 feet ahead of the people. I was doing stuff people couldn't even understand. But we live in a nation that makes sure, especially every black and brown boy, touches a football or basketball before the age of 4. If our children can't read and can't write, we live in a nation that makes sure that we put a football or basketball in their hand and make them believe that sports is an avenue for them. I want to live in a world that makes sure that we put science, technology, engineering, and mathematics in the hands of our kids before the age of 4. We live in a nation that makes sure our kids get sports and get footballs and basketball, hoping and dreaming and believing that one day they'll be the one of the 250 in the NFL get drafted and become millionaires. They live in a world giving them basketball, making them hoping and believing and dreaming that one day they'll be one of the 60 that get drafted and become millionaires. We got 1 million kids on Saturday doing gymnastics, running track, playing golf, hoping and believing and dreaming that one day they'll be the one to win that gold medal and become a millionaire. My dream is that we work together as a community and put STEM in the hands of every one of our kids such that they'll go to bed every night dreaming, hoping and believing that one day they'll wake up and have created something so great that they'll be one of the 14.4 millionaires in the world or one of the 2,375 billionaires in the world because they had an idea and created something with their mind such that the world needed. And that's what science, technology, engineering, and mathematics are due for our children. And I'm not against anybody playing sports. But I got a degree in mathematics. And the math ain't mathing for everybody. Somebody got to draft you if you're playing sports. Somebody got to anoint you if you're playing sports. But if you study and transform your mind and get the education, then maybe you'll be the one building a data center in downtown Shreveport. Maybe you'll be the one owning a $30 billion data center in Richland Parish. Maybe you'll be the one deciding who gets elected and who doesn't, because politics without economics is symbol without substance. And we got to make sure that we have economic justice in our community. King fought for civil rights, and he did all that he can do, but he got to a point of realizing that we've got all of these civil rights bills, but it hasn't changed the condition of our people, and he pivoted and started fighting for economic justice. And it's funny how we run into the parks and other people run into the labs. You see, when I was a little boy, my daddy dropped out of school in 8th grade to pick cotton. My mother went to a state-approved Negro high school in West Feliciana Parish. And I'll never forget, my uncle came to visit us. And he and my dad was sitting in a room drinking their libations. And my uncle brought me an erector set. And he gave me that erector set. And I took that little set and I made a little car. And when I made the car, I pushed it on the button, and the car ran across the floor. My uncle jumped up and said, "That boy's going to be an engineer." I had never met one. I didn't know what it was, and I couldn't even spell it. And I stand here before you today with a BS in mathematics and a BS, MS, and PhD in mechanical engineering from Georgia Tech. My uncle did what the scriptures say. He called it as if it were to be. And that's what we have to do for all of our children. And we can't let our limitations stop us. I remember I was in Ghana. And it was about 20 years ago, and I told my wife, before I go to Europe, I got to go to the continent. And the year after we got married, I was telling Pastor, we was talking about our kids and how our kids travel in the world. I said, "Man, I got my passport to go on my honeymoon." He said, "That's right. I got my passport," and we went to Ghana. And I'll never forget being in a Kibi village where they make the kente cloth. And the Ghanaian dollar, the CD, was 2,500 CDs for American dollar at that time. And I told my wife, "I'm going to be rich one time in my life." And I took $400 and I slammed on the table and said, "Give me 1,000,000 CDs. And I was walking around with 1,000,000 Ghanaian dollars in my pocket. I was balling everywhere I went. We started negotiating. I negotiated them down, then give them what they asked. "Man, take that." And we went in this village, and a bus pulled up. And I saw the girl coming, and I saw the kids coming towards the bus. And I turned to my wife and I said, "Look at them, they want my money. They want my money," my arrogant self. And I got off the bus, and the kids ran up to me. The little girl ran up to me with the most big, beautiful eyes, and she was patting me on my thigh. And I said, "Yes, little girl, yes, little girl." And she said, "Mister." I said, "Yes, little girl." She said, "Do you have a pencil?" Do you have a pencil? That little girl didn't want my money. That little girl understood what my grandmother said when she said, baby, put something in your head and nobody can take that from you. That little girl knew if I gave her a pencil and I gave her a book and she learned how to read and write and critically think, she can create a better world for herself. And that's what we've done. We've confused education with wisdom. My book, Grandma's Hands, I talk about the fact that many of our grandmothers was wise. They was ignorant, meaning not educated, but they was wise. Now, grandmothers who was wise and knew God lived to be 80 and 90. And now we educated and don't know God and dying at 18 and 19. We got to bring wisdom that Martin Luther King had. We got to bring wisdom that our grandma has back into our communities. My grandmother gave me 6 lessons that if we hold on to them, it'll transform our life. If we just learn, young people, we just learn these 6 lessons and manifest them into our life, it'll transform your life. My grandma used to say things like this: every closed eye ain't sleep. Every goodbye ain't gone. Everything done in the dark will come to light. Misery loves company. Birds of a feather. And if you lay down with dogs, get up with fleas. PhD. The only problem that many of our young men and young women are laying down and getting up with more than fleas. Nah. We got to bring wisdom back to this thing called education. And that wisdom started with our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. And then it goes to the schoolhouse. Martin Luther King understood that we had to have both. We just can't be saved by Jesus and not understand how to save ourselves in a place called America. It is ironic that Dr. Martin Luther King, with all the degrees that he had, died in Memphis fighting for the sanitation workers. His campaign wasn't a middle-class campaign. His campaign wasn't the Alpha, the Kappas, the Qs, the Sigmas, the Beta. That wasn't his campaign. His campaign was the poor people's campaign. There's an obligation on us to go back and do the things that we're supposed to do and make sure that our community have skills to pay the bills. See, the man or woman who doesn't have skills asks people what they pay. The man or woman who does have skills tell people how much they charge. We have to make sure that everybody in our community got skills to pay the bills so they can tell people how much they. As a professor at Tulane, I never forget sitting there looking out the window. I had 4 STEM degrees, I had a PhD in hydrodynamic stability. You study water and how water go from being laminar to being turbulent. And, people used to call me up if a ship in a river, like over here at the port in Giselle, if the ship can't land because the current's pushing the ship, that's how I made my money. Because if it's causing them $1 million a day because that ship couldn't dock, and I got the answer, then what should I charge them? I'm not worried about minimum wage when I got that answer. I studied hydrodynamic stability. I'll never forget a man called me. And I went to his office. And when I got to his office, he said, look, Doc, you hear that noise? And he had a big pipe in his office. And the pipe was making noise, thump, thump, thump. And I put my hand on the pipe, thump, thump. I said, man, I think you got a hydrodynamic stability problem. He said, that's why I called you. He said, fix it. I said, well, I'm going to fix it. And I went out to my truck, and I came back in with my tools, and I put my hand on the pipe, thump, 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 and I hit it with my hammer, bam. All of a sudden, the pipe went smooth. That's engineering 101. Hit it with a hammer first. And if that don't work, go get you some duct tape and WD-40 and that'll fix anything. That's the engineer right there. He said, man, you fixed my pipe, charge me, bill me. I said, I'm definitely gonna bill you. And I went to my office and I typed up an invoice and I faxed the invoice to him, wham. And young people, a fax is a machine where you take a piece of paper and you put that paper in the machine and it come out on the other side. And the man got the fax and he looked at the fax. The fax read $200. He picked up his phone. He said, man, you just be out your rabbit mind if you think I'm going to pay you $200 for hitting a pipe with a hammer. I said, you want it itemized? He said, break it down. I said, well, let it be broken. And I itemized it, and I faxed it to him, wham. And he got the fax. The fax read $2 for the hammer, $198 for knowing where to hit it. The man and woman that knows how will forever have a job, but the man and woman that knows why will forever be their boss. Shreveport, we got to make sure that our children know the why if we're going to rule and control ourselves in the 21st century. This thing called hope is not play. Hope is the thing that's going to keep us going. It's the vitality of life. As Martin Luther King said, we can have finite disappointment. And every day we wake up and look at the news, there's reason to have finite disappointment. But we gotta have infinite hope. And in closing, I want you all to know something. I travel a lot. And I'll never forget, I have 2 sons. When we started STEMNOLA, my son came home in the 3rd grade and he said, Dad, I don't like science anymore. I said, boy, that's not right. That can't be. It's in your DNA. He said, no, Daddy, teacher just talked to the board and I like to do stuff with my hands. I said, son, we got to fix that. And we went in the garage and we started doing all these hands-on activities. My other son came in the garage. He started doing hands-on activity. Little white kid next door came and started doing hands-on activities with us. Little girl down the street started doing hands-on activities. I saw the way their confidence changed. I saw how they stood up. I saw how their words changed. And the parents started saying, what y'all doing in that garage? And I'll never forget, kids started coming to my house, knocking on the door, and asked my wife, can a man come outside and play? And I knew I had a problem. One day my wife said, no, he got chores. And one day my son came home from school and he had all A's. And I said, son, what's your grade? He said, all A's, Dad. I said, that's my boy. That's what I respect of you. He said, Daddy, my friends want to know how I know all this. I said, you tell them you do this in the garage with your daddy. He said, yeah, Daddy, but my friends need this. And right then and there, I realized that I had become like many other people, keeping my time and my talent and my treasure to me and mine. And when my community needed me the most, I was being selfish and putting it into mine. My son put a knife in me and said, do something. But the problem was my son was going to the #1 elementary school in the state of Louisiana. And if my son's friends at the #1 elementary school in the state of Louisiana wasn't getting it, know what they're telling me, Giselle? That means that every kid, Terrence, in this state was not getting it. And me and my wife took $100,000 of our own dollars and said, we're going to take what's in this garage and bring to the community. And we've been doing this now for 12 years. And in 12 years, this is year 13, we've engaged over 250,000 young people in 47 states and 5 countries. But that ain't the shout. The shout is that those 4 kids in the garage. My son, who said he didn't like science anymore, just graduated from Howard University, #2 with a BS in mechanical engineering, working on his PhD at the University of Michigan in robotics and AI. My other little son, who just came out to hang out with Daddy and the brother, he's a junior at Yale in economics and data science. The little white boy next door who just wanted to hang with the little kids, he's a junior chemical engineering major at University of Alabama. The little girl down the street, she's at Alabama A&M doing food science. And right now, we're tracking 10 to 20 to 30 and 40, 50 kids graduating every year in STEM. And one thing we know, that once they get these degrees and begin to pursue their careers, this will be transformative not only to them, but to their lives. And with everything that's happening along I-20 corridor that got to do with science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, from cybersecurity to data science, we got to make sure that our community is not running behind, but is in front of it, such that we can partake and participate in it. That's our challenge. And I got to go, because like I said, I travel a lot. My wife, she's been telling me, Pastor, I need you to stop traveling. When my boys was getting older, she said, look, I need you here with the boys. When they got about 8 or 9, I was doing about 200,000 miles a year traveling. And I said, look, I'm going to be okay. I'm coming back. She said, no, I need you with me, with these boys here in this house. I said, I got it, but I got to go. She said, look, I need you here with me to help me raise these boys. They done had their mama, now they need their daddy. I said, I understand. I'm going to be here. She said, look, you going on that trip? I said, I got to go. She said, why? I said, do you like to eat? She said, I love to eat. I said, if my mouth ain't moving, you ain't eating. I said, I got to go. She said, but I need you here with the boys. I said, look, we're going to work on this, and I'm be here with the boys. She said, well, I need you. I said, well, look at you, all in love. She said, oh, look, I need you here with the boys. I said, look, I'm going, but if this plane go down, because it's the time when those planes was crashing, people stealing planes, she was worried. I said, look, if the plane go down, you're going to be all right. She said, look, don't talk about that. I said, look, don't, hey, if the plane go down, you're going to be all right, but I got to go. She said, look, don't talk like that. I said, look, woman, if the plane go down, you're going to be all right. She said, well, how all right am I going to be? I said, double indemnity, all right. I said, look, I got to go. She said, look, we got to do something here. I said, look, if the plane go down and I don't make it home, I want one word on my tombstone. She said, Calvin, don't talk like that. I said, look, I want the world to know the way I live my life, and I need you to listen to me. If the plane go down, there's only one word I want on my tombstone. She said, look, Calvin, don't talk like that. I said, look, woman, listen to me. One time in our lives, after 27 years, she said, all right, fool, what's the word? I said, if the plane go down and I don't make it home, the only word I want on my tombstone, Morning Star, is empty, because I want the world to know I gave it my, Dr. King gave it his all for us. Now let's give our all for our community and our children and for hope in the 21st century. Thank you, and God bless. Thank you.